fictional spies, few figures loom as large as James Bond, the suave, unflappable agent 007 created by Ian Fleming. Bond embodies the epitome of charm, resourcefulness, and invincibility. A man who sips martinis, shaken, not stirred drives Aston Martins through perilous chases, and always emerges victorious against global threats. But what if I told you that this iconic character wasn't born purely from imagination, that he draws profound inspiration from a real-life operative whose exploits make Bond's adventures seem almost restrained? Enter Sidney Reilly. The British spy, often called the ace of spies or the super spy of the 20th century. Reilly was a master of deception who infiltrated the heart of revolutionary Russia, outwitted ruthless secret police, and lived a life so shrouded in mystery that even his death remains an enigma. Yet, unlike Bond's glamorous endings, Reilly's story culminates in tragedy executed by Stalin's regime in a manner so covert that his body was never recovered. This is the tale of a man whose real-world daring shaped one of fiction's greatest heroes, offering lessons in strategy, hubris, and the razor-thin line between genius and downfall. To fully appreciate Sidney Reilly's extraordinary life, we must journey back to the late 19th century, an era of imperial rivalries, technological upheaval, and simmering revolutions. The world was a tinderbox. The British Empire spanned the globe. The Russian Empire grappled with internal dissent, and emerging powers like Germany and Japan vied for influence. It was into this volatile landscape that Reilly was born on March 24, 1873, or so the most accepted accounts claim, in Odessa, a bustling port city in the Russian Empire, now part of Ukraine. His birth name was likely Sigmund Georgievich Rosenblum, the son of a Jewish physician named Mikhail Abramovich Rosenblum and a Polish noblewoman, Pauline. However, Reilly's origins are as elusive as the man himself. He wove a web of conflicting narratives throughout his life, sometimes claiming to be the illegitimate son of a Russian aristocrat, other times insisting on Irish heritage to better assimilate into British society. This deliberate obfuscation wasn't mere eccentricity, it was a survival tactic in an age rife with anti-Semitism, class prejudices, and political persecutions. As a young Jew in Tsarist Russia, Reilly faced systemic discrimination, which likely fueled his early desire to reinvent himself. Reilly's childhood was marked by instability and rebellion. Raised in a middle-class household, he exhibited early signs of restlessness and intellect. By his teens, he had already clashed with his family, particularly after discovering his father's true identity. Some accounts suggest his biological father was not Mikhail, but a family friend. In a dramatic turn that foreshadowed his future theatrics, Reilly reportedly faked his own suicide around age 19. He staged a drowning in the Dnieper River, complete with a body double, and fled to South America. Whether this episode is factual or another Reilly fabrication is debated among historians, but it aligns with his pattern of dramatic escapes. Arriving in Brazil penniless, he worked menial jobs from coffee plantation laborer to road builder before leveraging his quick wit to climb social ladders. It was here that Reilly honed his linguistic skills, picking up Portuguese and Spanish alongside his native Russian, Polish, and Yiddish. These talents would become his lifeline. By the mid-1890s, Reilly had migrated to London, a hub of espionage and intrigue at the height of the British Empire. Adopting the anglicized name Sidney George Reilly, adding George for flair, he claimed descent from an Irish colonel to mask his Jewish roots. London offered opportunities for a man of his ambitions, He dabbled in patent sales, importing exotic goods, and even worked as a cook on expeditions. But Reilly's true calling emerged when he caught the eye of British intelligence. In 1899, during a mission in the Caucasus, he allegedly rescued British agents from Russian capture by posing as a timber merchant. This feat earned him a spot in the Secret Intelligence Service, SIS, then known as the Foreign Section of the Secret Service Bureau. Under the mentorship of figures like William Melville Reilly, began his transformation into a professional spy. What set Reilly apart was his unparalleled mastery of languages and psychology. Fluent in at least 7 tongues, Russian, English, French, German, Polish, Portuguese, and possibly Italian, he could seamlessly adopt accents, idioms, and cultural nuances. This wasn't mere mimicry, it was psychological warfare. Reilly understood that humans are predictable creatures driven by base desires, greed for wealth, love for validation, pride in status. He exploited these with surgical precision, preferring seduction over violence. A prime example is the Darcy Affair in 1904, where Reilly secured Persian oil concessions for Britain. Posing as a Catholic priest, a bold choice given his Jewish background, he befriended Shah Mozaffar al-Din, using flattery and bribes to outbid Russian competitors. The deal paved the way for the Anglo-Persian Oil Company, precursor to BP, shifting global energy dynamics and enriching Reilly personally. Reilly's exploits escalated during the Russo-Japanese War of 1904-1905, a conflict that foreshadowed the mechanized horrors of World War I. Disguised as a Russian naval officer, he infiltrated the fortified Port Arthur, now Lushunkou, China, stealing blueprints of minefields and fleet positions. These intelligence coups aided Japan's devastating surprise attack, weakening Russia and boosting Japan's imperial rise. Reilly didn't stop at loyalty to Britain. He played multiple angles, reportedly selling tidbits to Japan for extra profit. This moral flexibility, treating espionage as a lucrative game, defined him. He amassed a fortune through shady deals, funding a lavish lifestyle, tailored suits, fine cigars, and a string of lovers. Reilly married at least 3 times, often bigamously. His first wife, Margaret Thomas, née Callahan, a wealthy widow, provided financial stability and alibis. His second, Nadine Massino, a Russian actress, opened doors to St. Petersburg's elite. Women were central to his operations. He seduced informants' rivals' wives, and even double agents, blending romance with reconnaissance. As World War I erupted in 1914, Reilly's skills found their perfect arena. Recruited formally by MI1C, the forerunner to MI6, he operated under Captain Mansfield Smith Cumming, the legendary C. Reilly's missions spanned continents. In New York, he sabotaged German U-boat supplies by infiltrating shipping firms. In the Middle East, he gathered intel on Ottoman troop movements, aiding Lawrence of Arabia's campaigns. He even posed as a German arms dealer to procure weapons for the Allies. But Reilly's wartime persona wasn't without controversy. Accused of profiteering, selling scarce goods at inflated prices, he walked a fine line between patriot and opportunist. His personal life mirrored this duality. Extravagant parties in Paris contrasted with solitary stakeouts in Berlin. The war's end in 1918 brought no respite. Instead, it thrust Reilly into his most audacious operation. Russia, reeling from the 1917 October Revolution, had become a communist stronghold under Vladimir Lenin. The Bolsheviks' rise terrified the West. Their ideology threatened to export revolution across Europe, toppling monarchies and capitalists alike. Britain, France, and the United States intervened covertly, in the Russian Civil War, supporting White Army forces against the Reds. Amid this, the SIS devised the Ambassadors' Plot, a scheme to assassinate Lenin and Leon Trotsky, seize Moscow, and install a pro-Allied government. Leading this high-risk endeavor was Sidney Reilly, whose Russian fluency and revolutionary contacts made him ideal. Reilly embraced the plot with zeal, viewing it as the pinnacle of his career. Success would etch his name in history. Failure meant execution by the Cheka, the Bolshevik secret police led by the iron-willed Felix Dzerzhinsky. Arriving in Petrograd, now St. Petersburg, in May 1918, Reilly adopted the alias Konstantin Markovich Massino, borrowing from his wife. He coordinated with British diplomat Robert Bruce Lockhart, smuggling 1.2 million, equivalent to 100 million today, to fund bribes. Reilly's network expanded rapidly. He recruited disgruntled Latvian riflemen, Lenin's bodyguards, ex-Tsarist officers, and even Bolshevik insiders disillusioned with the regime. The plan was intricate simultaneous uprisings in Moscow and Petrograd, coordinated assassinations during a theater performance, and Allied troop support from Archangel. For months, Reilly operated in the shadows, meeting contacts in seedy taverns and opulent safe houses. One vivid account describes a clandestine gathering in a dimly lit Moscow basement. Reilly, chain-smoking, unrolls a city map with an anti-Bolshevik general. They pinpoint targets: the Kremlin Cheka headquarters key bridges, while whispering about poison gas and machine gun nests. Reilly attempted to bribe Lenin's guards with promises of Swiss exile and fortunes. He even forged documents to impersonate a Cheka agent, allowing him to eavesdrop on high-level meetings. But cracks appeared. The Bolsheviks, paranoid after an assassination attempt on Lenin by Fanya Kaplan in August 1918, intensified purges. A minor slip-up at a vodka-soaked party exposed Reilly. A Red Army officer detected a faint Polish accent in his Russian. Though Reilly deflected with a joke, suspicion festered. Dzerzhinsky's Cheka launched raids arresting Lockhart and dozens of conspirators. Reilly went underground disguising as a beggar to evade patrols. In a heart-pounding escape, he boarded a Dutch ship in Petrograd, posing as a diplomat, and fled to Finland. The plot failed spectacularly, but Reilly's survival burnished his legend. Exiled in London, Reilly couldn't let go. He lobbied for anti-Bolshevik interventions, wrote inflammatory articles, and advised Winston Churchill on Soviet threats. Yet personal demons mounted: gambling debts, failed marriages, and a growing opium habit. Reilly's life became a cycle of schemes, from arms dealing in Poland to failed business ventures in New York. His obsession with Russia persisted, fueled by a desire for vengeance. In 1925, this fixation proved fatal. An organization called The Trust contacted Reilly, claiming to be an underground anti-Stalin network seeking his expertise for a coup. It was a masterful OGPU, Stalin's secret police deception designed to lure white émigrés. Ignoring warnings from MI6 contacts, Reilly's ego prevailed. "I know Russia like the back of my hand," he boasted. Crossing the Soviet-Finnish border in September, he was ambushed near Minsk. Dragged to Moscow's Lubyanka prison, Reilly endured months of torture and interrogation. He resisted, revealing nothing, but his fate was sealed. On November 5, 1925, OGPU agents drove him to a snowy forest outside the city. According to declassified KGB files, Reilly was forced to walk ahead and shot in the back, a traitor's death. His body was dumped in an unmarked pit, erased from existence. No grave, no closure. Sidney Reilly vanished, but his myth endured. Ian Fleming, who served in naval intelligence during World War II, encountered Reilly's tales through SIS archives and Lockhart's memoirs. Bond's traits: multilingual charm, gadget-loving ingenuity. Reilly used cyanide capsules and hidden cameras in anti-communist crusades. Echo Reilly. Fleming even borrowed specific elements. Bond's seduction tactics mirror Reilly's affairs, and plots like From Russia with Love evoke the ambassador's plot. Yet where Bond triumphs, Reilly's story warns of reality's brutality. Reilly's life imparts timeless strategic lessons applicable beyond espionage to business leadership and personal growth. First, confidence is a double-edged sword. Reilly's self-assurance propelled him to heights, but overconfidence blinded him to traps. In business, entrepreneurs like Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos fell similarly, ignoring red flags amid hype. Lesson: temper boldness with humility. Seek diverse counsel to avoid echo chambers. Second, know when to retreat. Reilly's 1925 return was driven by ego, not logic. In investing, Warren Buffett advises never lose money by cutting losses early. Knowing when to pivot, like Kodak failing to embrace digital photography, separates winners from losers. Third, adaptability is key. Reilly's chameleon identities ensured survival in flux. Modern companies like Amazon thrive by evolving from booksellers to cloud giants. Cultivate flexibility, learn new skills, diversify networks, and embrace change. Fourth, exploit psychological insights. Reilly targeted weaknesses. Marketers today use behavioral data for personalized ads. Understand motivations, fear, desire, status, to influence outcomes ethically. Fifth, betrayal erodes foundations. Reilly's duplicity left him isolated. In teams, trust builds resilience. Leaders like Satya Nadella at Microsoft foster collaboration for innovation. Sixth, distinguish myth from reality. Reilly's legend outshone his tragic end. Focus on sustainable impact over fleeting glory. Build legacies through mentorship and integrity. Seventh, timing is everything. Reilly's plots failed due to poor synchronization. In startups, launching too early or late can doom ventures. Analyze market signals meticulously. Eighth, risk management is non-negotiable. Reilly gambled without safety nets. Use tools like SWOT analysis to mitigate downsides. Ninth, emotional intelligence matters. Reilly's charisma won allies, but impulsivity lost them. Develop EQ to navigate relationships. 10th, learn from failure. Reilly's 1918 debacle honed his skills, though he didn't apply it in 1925. Resilient figures like Oprah Winfrey turned setbacks into comebacks. So, after hearing this story, what do you think? Is Sidney Reilly a hero, a traitor, or simply a pawn in a political chess game? Comment below and share your thoughts. If you want to hear more stories about real-life strategic ghosts, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on the next interesting story.